Running Sentences presents A Lost Writer and His Tale. Part 3. Escape for a while. Victor gets an offer to get away, if only for a little bit. Since it's better than what he currently has, it's worth at least exploring, right? This story was written and narrated by Michael Hunnery. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on is purely coincidental. Copyright 2025, Michael Hunnery, all rights reserved. The comfortable and quaint cafe kept its busy little pace as Victor and Broody sat there enjoying the atmosphere of it. Victor felt relief at being able to unburden himself of the past few days' events, but still worries as his stomach grumbles away. "They offered you good money, I hope, for the work?" "They didn't even mention money to do whatever they were doing. I don't know. And no, they were strange and they creeped me out, so I said no." "You sent them away? No big deal, then?" "I wish, Brody. I ran away after the two of them mentioned that the two lived in our apartment complex. They knew where I lived, so I didn't feel like I could go back there." "Dude." "Yeah, I know. It sounds like it's out of a fiction story or something." "Be a cool story, though." Victor gave his roommate a sidelong glance on that. "It's more drama than it's worth, and it involves the bar I work for. I don't get it, and no one wants to explain anything to me, so I can't go along with it." Brody nods and looks over his plate at untouched food, then pushes it towards Victor. "From the way your stomach's grumbling, you look like you could use this. So, are you gonna come back home eventually?" Victor shrugs and returns and picks up the muffin from the plate. "Well, actually, before you answer that, I have a friend you could potentially stay with for a while, if you're willing to keep paying rent for the apartment." "Yeah, sure. Tell me more?" "I know this guy. His name is Carey, after a famous actor. Something anyway. I don't know. He told me and it all sort of squelched together in my mind. So it might not be that at all, but it's something." "Can we stick to this about them not getting sidetracked, please? I'm sure he will be more than happy to tell me his name if that's a big deal for him." Brody nodded apologetically. Right. He lives on the rich side of town, hangs out with all sorts of people. He's always said he wants a roommate, or at least to have one for a while. He wouldn't happen to stay in the Butcher Center building, would he?" Looking at the ceiling for a moment, Brody brought his head back down in a nod of yes. "Yep, I think that's the place. Do you know it or something?" "Or something is right. It's a complicated situation. Not sure you want to be bothered with that part of the details of my night. You were saying anyway?" "Why, was your night boring, Victor?" "Actually, it kind of was. I stayed in that building as a guest of one of the other occupants, but then ran away when they weren't exactly friendly, and "So who was this?" Miss Riley, who owed a favor to my boss, Stephen, so she let me stay for the night in one of her rooms." "Cool. But that means that things aren't as boring as you said they were." "It really was boring, though, Brody. I was given a room to sleep in and left in the morning without saying anything to her. She didn't seem to like me. Okay, can we get back to your friend and call him or something?" "Well, you're in luck. I was going to meet him this morning, right after this." The sinking worry that Brody might not actually know this guy hit Victor. He didn't have any particular reason for this feeling, but it just etched across him in worry. "So where were you going to meet him?" "It's a store called the Arcadist." What kind of a place is that? An arcade?" "No, Victor. Dude helps fix up and sell arcade and pinball machines. Apparently one can make good money that way. We should go see him right now before he gets busy, though. Victor briefly wonders why Brody, of all people, is hanging out with a man who works on arcade machines. He never really appeared to have an interest in that sort of stuff, at least that Victor was aware of. With a shrug, though, he gets up and gets ready to go. It was a bit of a walk and took them around and about the town towards the more warehouse-oriented part of the place, of the city. Here things weren't as well taken care of, but still kept in decent enough shape. They found themselves at a smaller warehouse with a sign on it announcing that it was the Arcadist, though it was not the best built sign, since it was more of a placard that was stapled or nailed to the metal siding of this place. The parking lot had few cars and trucks, but not much going on. So this is the place, right, Brody? Looks can be deceiving, my friend, and there is a sign right there. Yes, they can. I believe they can also be very truthful. But you're about to say don't judge a book by a cover? That's the only thing my mind snapped to you to reply to you, and a writer would have that at the ready, wouldn't they? There were a few workers outside, moving stuff here and there towards the truck. One of them, a rather distinguished-looking man overseeing things, spots Brody and starts approaching towards the two. He waves his hand, and the two come to a stop as they were continually walking towards this man as well. Then, as this man watched over to make sure that the truck was fully loaded and not put in a bad position, he then turns to them and rapidly approaches with a smile on his face. If it isn't my old friend that I have. What brings you here, Brody? With a friend, no less. You did say something about needing a roommate, right? The man looked them over in his slick, nice-looking clothes that screamed, money well spent. Victor was unsure how he felt about this person, and if staying with him was a good idea. There weren't that many options, though. You want to take me up on my offer, do you, Brody? No, though it sounds very nice. My friend here is looking for a place to stay for a week or two. Oh, Victor, this is Roger Carey, who, Carey Roger, who figures himself a man of many things. Sort of like a secret agent, then? The words were out of Victor's mouth before he could stop his dry, sarcastic response. To his surprise, though, Roger, Carey, or whatever he was calling himself, merely smiled and nodded to him. A quick sense of humor on this man. He's a writer, or so he claims, Brody responded. Yes, and I need a place to stay, as Brody said, if that's okay with you and if that's what you're looking for. Well, I'm not sure. I feel like I need to know the people who want to stay at my place. You rarely stay there, though, at the butcher building place, right? Oh, I occasionally use it, Brody, for a love nest and to get away from life and all of that, and I'm using it more these days as a result. Well, so if you're looking for someone to look after the place for the cost of a few dollars in a small room, keep it clean and whatnot, I could do that for you. Oh, that's an interesting offer. But we should talk in a nicer spot. Out here, well, it is nice out today. It isn't the place for making deals and discussing roommates, I feel. You always were wanting to search for more comfort, Mr. Roger. Carey Roger nods to Brody as the two begin walking towards the building. At first, Victor took a few unsure steps if he'd been invited to go along with them or not, then shook his head. This was all about him, wasn't it? There would be no reason for him not to be a part of all of this. Self-doubt at this point wasn't doing much good at this moment, and there were places he probably should be. In a small office space, Away from the workings of the various machines undergoing maintenance on them, Roger had his office, with a window that looked out onto the work being done. Into the building itself, not out to the outside. There was no outside view to this space, out to the greater world. Well, not that Victor figured anyone wanted to see the gray, drab industrial section of town. All they would see is similar-looking buildings, and he was sure that workers and bosses saw plenty of them when they went outside. It wasn't the most comfortable of office spaces. It was filled with paperwork and contracts strewn across the desk and anywhere that Roger could find. Still, he cleared off some chairs, and they were now seated across from him. "Forgive me for having to ask this, but why would you want to be my roommate, Mr. Victor?" A situation has come up where I don't feel comfortable in my own apartment anymore. I'm roommates here with Brody, and was approached by some private detectives who, I guess, seemed rather intense and wanted me to do things for them. Roger's eyebrows shot up at this, and his eyes narrowed in a weird, offsetting look. Unsure how this man was doing that, Victor merely shrugged, offered the rest of the story to him about what had happened to him lately. "So you're looking for a place to lay low. Why not just use a hotel?" "I'm not rich, Mr. Roger." "Family?" On instinct, Victor winced at the mention of his family. They were not good people to him, but they had their own ways, and generally they more or less led him into trouble with their opinions on things and with what they did and everything else. He just didn't agree with them, so dealing with them is not an option. I haven't talked to them in a while. They're out there doing their own thing, and I'm here staying away from them. Well then, I'm sorry, but I think you already know what my answer is going to be. Yeah, it was a long shot the second I met you, since you're not the type to take people in on a whim. Well, that's not fair, Victor. He does take people in on a whim. I mean, he wanted me to be his roommate while barely knowing me. Oh, no, we've known each other for a few months, Brody. I barely know anything about you, Brody said. And yet I felt I could trust you with such a thing like staying with me. Victor got the sudden click in the back of his mind of 2 and 2 going together. The whole invite had been more personal, and Brody might or might not have realized that. The question now became how he wanted to deal with this, or simply find a way to get out of an awkward encounter where he probably never should have been in the first place. Well, I think I need to go. Seems like there's nothing left to be had here. Thank you for at least considering what I have to say, though. Is it really not going to work out? I mean, he's a good guy, Roger. No, Brody, I think not. But you two can continue to chat if you wish. As your friend says, Brody, this will not be happening. I'm so sorry. Oh, well, worth a shot, and thank you. Brody was up and out of his seat, as Victor still sat in his, but then got up and began moving towards the door. I'll see you around, Brody. Walking out into the parking lot, Victor found himself torn on trying to figure out if Brody knew or what was going on with Mr. Roger. He was afraid to ask, though. He felt it would be stepping on toes and getting into things he probably didn't need to know. So, what are you gonna do now, Victor? I don't know. About your friend. Brody pauses near the edge of the parking lot and stares at Victor in response. You're not going to say what I think you're going to say, Brody asked. There was a long pause as Victor tried to figure out how to put what he needed to put and then settled on saying something else. I can't say for sure that I know what you're thinking, or you think I'm going to say, since I can't read your mind. Victor said, trying to walk around the subject. He's gay. I know he's gay, and I know you think he was inviting me to live with him, but that wasn't what was going on. Victor nodded along. Alright, if you say so. Look, it's getting late, and I'm sure you need to go get to work or something. You generally work late at night? Yeah, it's about time I go get there. Not that it will be interesting or anything like that. Brody mused. Oh, no, never asked. You do your thing, I hope you don't mind. But, what exactly do you actually do for work, Brody? There was a long pause as Brody looked away into the sky, thinking about things and then finally looking back at Victor. It's a cross-dressing bar, and a burlesque place is attached to it. I'm a cross-dressing bartender at a burlesque place. Of all the things that Brody could have said, that was not the expected answer. Victor didn't exactly know how to act for a moment or what to say in response. People, after all, and they tended to do what was ever necessary to get by, and working at such a place, well, he did what he needed to get by. Oh, Victor finally managed to say. Yeah, it's a weird job. Can be fun. Mostly weird, though, Victor. Is that where you met? Yep, Roger was there one night. Well, I guess that explains that then, and I expect you don't want me telling any people or anything about that, what you do, which, of course, I won't, since I have no one to tell in the first place. I'm a writer. I live all alone. Well, I live in my own imagination, not really friendly with anybody. Yeah. Brody fixed him with a hard look, which made Victor quickly add, nor would I have told them in the first place if I had friends to tell. Good. What are you going to do now? I guess there's only one thing I can do. Go home? Victor offered, but didn't really like it. Back to the apartment, you mean? Even after all of that? I have nowhere else to go. Plus, maybe they've all given up and don't really care about me anymore. I don't think so, and I doubt it. They don't sound like the type of people to give up. As much as he hated agreeing with that, Victor had to. But instead of showing it to Brody, he shrugged to him as they went their separate ways. With as much stealth as he could muster in a fairly open parking lot, Victor was creeping along. He was on the lookout for those two from the other day. If only he'd gotten a better look at them, or bothered to remember their faces. It was too late now, though, and all he had to do was keep moving across this parking lot without being spotted by them. His other roommate, Sam, had noticed him as he came out the building and was headed across the parking lot towards his car. Of course, he then stopped and stared at the sight of Victor slinking along. What are you doing, Victor? Keeping a low profile. I'll fill you in later, but people are looking for me, and I don't want to be spotted. So please, for the love of money, shut up and go away. Sam, at first, cocked his eyebrow at him, but with a sigh, the man got into his car and was soon driving off. Having made it all the way to the level which his apartment was on, Victor glances up and down the hallway to see what he could see. A few neighbors were out and about, which was unusual since the only time people were out and about was when they were either coming or going, that or the fire alarm was going off. Still, no sign of those other two, so he moved along as nonchalantly as he thought possible. Victor, is that you? One of his oldest neighbors put out a hand to stop him from going very far. Yes, it is, Marco. Do you need something? There was a young lady who stopped by earlier asking about you. Feeling his blood nearly exited the entirety of him, Victor froze up, trying to collect himself. It wasn't an easy task, since this could only be bad news, right? Did they say their name? Did they say their name? Didn't they say who they were? Yes. I don't know if I remember it now that I think about it. She was all talking really quickly, and it might have gone by in a flash of words. Resisting the urge to grab at the neighbor and give him a good shake, Victor tried to find himself a smile to gently ease the situation. It wasn't a great effort, but it was something, and it could shake him loose of his frozen-up feeling. Take your time, think it over, Marco. Oh yeah, I will. How are you, by the way? I didn't see you yesterday. Oh, I'm good. I spent the night out getting various things that needed to be done. How are you? The itchy feeling of panic and worry were running through Victor, since he didn't really have time for small talk. What to do? Leave and come back? But what if the person showed up again? And what then? Could he just get away with not answering the door? Then another thought struck him. Was the lady's name Ellis? Not sure. It was an attractive young woman, I know that much. Quite the looker, and she seemed really interested in you. Did she talk to my roommates, go into the apartment, or just knock on the door and then do something else? How am I supposed to know that? I don't know. I figured you might have spotted something since you were telling me all about this in the first place. Victor knew it sounded weak, and very much like an excuse, since that was exactly what this was. An excuse to get more information. But what else was he going to say? Well, I don't know anything about any of that. Okay, I'll probably be in my apartment if you think of who that person was. He slowly backs away with his hands raised in surrender to Marco. Best to get out of there before he said something else wrong. After plugging in his phone to charge it back to life, Victor flopped onto his bed, bouncing a bit. It was really nice to be back where he belonged, though the bed at Riley's had actually been much nicer now that he had time to think about it. His mind had also taken a hold of all that was going on, letting his imagination run wild with ideas of why all of this was potentially happening. It felt like there was a good story in there to his mind, but he couldn't quite sort it all out to make it make sense. And anyway, his phone was busily buzzing away, distracting him from it all, so he picked it up without looking at who was calling. Hello, this is Victor. If you're calling about unpaid debts or car insurance, I don't have a car, nor really any debts, so you're better off hanging up now. It's your boss. Steven! Sitting up straight from his bed, Victor's eyes went wide as he said this. Do you have any other bosses? No, it's just surprised. Rarely call me, that's all. A grunt came across the phone of dissatisfaction at that, which marked the second time in only 30 minutes he'd disappointed someone. Probably wouldn't be the last one either, if he was judging by how his life was going so far. It's about those people, his boss said. Oh, you found something. Yes, Yont's going to like it, though. That was a weird comment, unless this meant he was about to be fired and this was going to make him not like it. Oh, okay. Perhaps you could explain to me slowly and make sure I get what's going on. Those detectives you said you came across, they aren't looking into me. Yeah. Are you sure? Or maybe they're looking to the parties you had? No, they are not. It gets weirder than that, though. Are they looking into me then, boss? Why would they do that? Doesn't make any sense to me. Well... A sinking feeling was rocking Victor that maybe his family was being looked into, and that was what this was all about. Are they looking for me? Will you let me talk? Yes, of course. Sorry, boss. The thing is, this detective agency that you come across doesn't actually exist. Let me correct myself, actually. They once did, but no longer appear to. What? Yes, it is weird, since I can find that old man you were talking about and the lady and guy you mentioned. Did something happen to them lately? Recently? Is that why the agency no longer exists? No. As far as I can tell, the operation shut down 2 years ago, and there's no trace of those people since then. It didn't make any sense to Victor, but I was actually kind of grateful. It took a lot off his mind that potentially this wasn't such a big thing. But Victor, there is still a problem, his boss announced. What's the problem? If you're imagining things and dragging it into my workplace, I cannot have that. You're firing me. There was a grunt of yes from the other side of the phone, which wasn't exactly what he wanted to hear, all because it didn't sound like a yes or a no to him. Give me a better answer than a grunt, please. Lucy argued on your behalf, saying we can't lose a good worker, but I also can't have a worker imagining things working here since I don't know if I can trust you. You're seeing things. Wait, you think I'm actually imagining things? I just made that obvious. I thought I did at least. You came to me with a story, a fanciful one at that. All about a detective agency looking into my bar, a bar that doesn't do enough business as is. Honestly, that should have been the first sign that something was wrong with you. No, I didn't imagine it, Stephen. I saw and I talked to those people. They may not be a part of that detective agency, or maybe they lied to me, but they were real. There was a long, heavy, drawn-out sigh that came across the phone, one that made Victor take the phone away from his ear for a few seconds. Whatever you say. Either way, don't come looking for work from me. I can't trust you. The phone went dead, and now, out of all energy, Victor flopped onto his bed and passed out. A heavy knock on the front door eventually woke him up, and he groggily got up, made his way to it. Still not quite awake, he forgot to check the people and instead opened the door fully to find Sherry, the young lady from before, standing there. Victor froze for a second, trying to find the words to make all of this make sense, but nothing was coming. Good, you're here. I am... Are you... She gave him a quizzical look and placed her hand on his chest, pushing him aside so she could get in. The move caught him so off guard he did nothing to stop it, or think of anything that he could do. That is, aside from holding onto the door handle, since that was his link to reality right now. Listen, there's something we need to do. Instead of responding, though, Victor's mind wondered what would happen if he ran out of the room, closing the door behind him. Would she be trapped? Surprised? It took his mind a moment to catch up with itself and think out how this really wouldn't work at all. I cannot help you or do anything for you in result to the bar. What do you even think I can do? I think you can help me. Do you not listen to me? Victor protested. When you say the same dumb thing over and over again, then yes, I will not listen to you can't do anything for me. That's what I should be saying. She ignored him and headed towards the couch in the living room space that was but a few steps away. Victor wanted to reach out to stop her, but that felt like it would only lead to some sort of trouble if he touched her. What are you doing here? Preparing to sit down and make you listen to me. Perhaps if you blurted out the thing that would explain everything, all of this would go quicker and I might actually say yes to you. She plopped herself onto the couch as he tossed his arms up in frustration. Fine, consider me asking about whatever it is. I need you to help me find out about the bar you work for. No can do. As I said, there's nothing I can help you with. And before you ask, because you won't listen to me, I no longer work there. Because of you. What? Why? My former boss thinks I'm making things up, so he won't trust me. You told him about us, the detective agency, I mean. Yes, of course I did. What would you expect me to do when strangers come up to me and start demanding that I help them with jobs at a bar? I'm going to talk to my boss about it, which is exactly what you wanted in the first place. The lady took a moment to think about that, nodding slowly as if this actually did make sense. Which it did, it just didn't help his frustrations. Okay, then I still need your help with this matter that is big. So big, you don't even understand. Was there anything he could say that would actually get her talking about what that thing was? It felt like the answer was an obvious nope. Is it about the bar or someone who works there? See, I knew you'd begin to ask questions. And no. Fighting back the urge he had, Victor did his best not to facepalm or slap his own face in frustration. Then what is this about? Well, no, let me correct myself. The bar place you used to work for, or might be, used to, I don't know, you might be involved in, or probably are still to some extent. It has to do with money that goes in and out of the place, Sherry said, but it did little to clear up Victor's questions. Like hush fund, illegal pay schemes, or something else? She pauses, waits for a moment as she meets his eyes. It's fraud and counterfeiting. The two reasons were not the ones he'd been expecting, but it might explain why he had some fake money the other day. Now, there were two problems with this situation. As first was if he should or should not tell her that about that, and the other was why would she, of all people, be investigating such a thing? Wouldn't that be a government job, either local or national? Why are you looking into that? That you don't need to know. If I was going to help you, yes, I do. No, you don't. It would only complicate an already complicated matter. What I need from you is your help in understanding what's under the bar, Sherry said. The basement of the place. It's filled with fridges and kegs of beer. Some storage areas, well, that is filled with bottles of alcohol. Most of all of it, beer. She gave a sidelong glance to judge him for his comment. The look was not quite trusting of what he said, playing across her face. That's all you've seen? I've only ever seen a basement level, never seen an area go further down. Plus, I've cleaned the whole storage area, so yeah, that's probably all there is. Well then, can you get me inside? No, all I can do is bring you there. I think you can do better than that. How? Please, please tell me. Sad. This is just sad. You really don't have anything. Your file says you're a writer of some sort, right? I figure one of your skills would have to do with an imagination. Well, here is an idea. You go there to complain about being fired, while I sneak in. Okay? He shook his head at the idea. It would probably work in a story for a novel or movie, but such events in real life? Could he really take that sort of chance? It didn't feel right. No, I don't think that will work. Why not? She asked. You have to get past security, the bouncer who doesn't let anyone in while the bar is closed. So then it's only open at night. Victor nods at this statement of this fact. Yeah, it's fine. It's only open at night, and he guards it pretty well during the day and the night. There's no getting past him, or if a second guy is on while Bruce is at the front. You really are useless then, are you? Completely and utterly, since you got me fired. Now please leave. There was another knock on the door which made Victor jump in surprise. He turns and stares at it and wondering who this could be. Part of him doesn't want to find out. The other part? Who is it? It's your former co-worker? The voice of Lucy coming through the door was a surprise, since he was sure she didn't know his home address. Why would she know it after all? And why would she come to him? What do you want? And it should be former coworker, right? I just want to chat about what's happened. There's something weird going on. Okay, I could definitely understand that, but something weird is also currently in my apartment. Just to know and to be sure, how did you get my address? You have a file at work, and since Stephen lets me work on the computers, I saw it. What do you mean, weird here? Victor goes over to the door, opening it a crack so that he can speak to her, and leans in to whisper. The person, one of the private detectives, is currently in my living room. Maybe. Maybe? Lucy responded, surprised. He shrugs and steps aside, unsure if he trusts his own eyes and mind anymore. Lucy gives him a bit of an odd look and then steps inside herself. She's quick to move towards the living room and comes to a stop when she spots the woman. Hello, I believe we've met before, Miss Lucy. Have we, miss? Yes, I tried to get you to hire me at the bar. Stephen's bar, I mean. Lucy looks back to Victor, who came over quite slowly, but the fact that the two were just talking was a great sign. This is the detective, Sherry, who wants to work at the bar. I'm sure Stephen told you all about the situation, Victor said, trying to clarify things a little bit. Now that you've mentioned it, I vaguely recall someone like her. Great. She's accusing the bar of running a money laundering scheme. End of part 3 of The Lost Rider and His Tale. Thank you for listening.